Terrified boy begged the Hells Angels, "Please save my sister." What they found changed everything. The boy was shaking so badly he could barely breathe, and when he whispered, "They took my sister," Reaper's jaw clenched in a way that promised fire. If you love emotional raw biker moments, this one will hit your heart like thunder. The sun had barely set when the engines of the Hells Angels roared like a storm waking from sleep. The clubhouse was alive with the sound of metal, laughter, and the low rumble of powerful machines cooling after a long ride. Reaper stood at the center, leather vest open, tattoos dark under the fading sky, beard catching the last spark of orange light. Tank was tossing a wrench from hand to hand, and Ghost sat on the porch carving a small wooden skull. His usual quiet expression, unreadable. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening, but fate had different plans. As the last of the bikers parked there, Harley and walked toward the clubhouse, something broke the rhythm. A small shape, stumbling across the dirt road, running so fast he kept falling, then pushing back up. A boy, maybe 9 or 10 years old, skinny, covered in dust, eyes full of terror so real it could freeze blood. He sprinted straight toward the Hells Angels without thinking twice. Reaper lifted his hand. "Hold up, brothers." The engines cut. The laughter stopped. Dozens of leather-clad giants turned and stared at the fragile kid collapsing at their boots. The boy fell to his knees, chest heaving, tears streaking through the dirt on his face. Tank crouched first. "Kid, what happened?" The boy's voice cracked. Please, save my sister." Every angel froze. Reaper stepped forward slowly, his shadow falling over the trembling child. "What's your name, son?" The boy wiped his face with a shaky hand. "Memison, and your sister?" "Hannah. She's 13. They took her." Ghost dropped his wooden carving. Reaper crouched, looking the boy dead in the eyes. "Who took her?" Mason swallowed hard. His lips trembled. "A group. They called themselves the Iron Serpents." A murmur rolled through the bikers like distant thunder. Tank's knuckles cracked. Ghost's jaw twitched. Reaper's eyes darkened. The Iron Serpents were a violent, unpredictable, drug-running gang known for one thing: they didn't leave witnesses. Reaper grabbed the boy gently by the shoulders. "Tell me everything, slowly." Mason's throat worked hard, but he forced the words out. "They broke into our house." Mom screamed. Hannah tried to hide, but they dragged her out into a black van. He choked back a sob. I ran after them, but they pointed a gun at me and told me to stay quiet." The entire Hells Angels line stiffened. Reaper stood, and when Reaper stood, the earth itself respected him. "Brothers," he said quietly, "we ride." Ghost put a hand on Mason's shoulder. "You're safe now, kid. We'll get her." Tank nodded. Iron Serpents picked the wrong kid to mess with. But Mason shook his head violently. "You don't understand." He pointed toward the far road. "They're taking her to the old Hawthorne textile mill. My sister, she heard rumors at school. They used that place for 4 bad things." Reaper's eyes flashed. "We're leaving now." Within seconds, engines roared awake. Chrome caught the moonlight. Dust exploded behind the tires. But before they moved, Ghost lifted the boy and placed him carefully in front of him on his Harley. "You ride with us, kid. You're family now." Mason held on to Ghost's leather vest, still trembling. Reaper looked back at him. "We'll save your sister, I swear it." And when Reaper swears something, hell listens. The ride into Darkness, says the Hells Angels, sped down the deserted highway, engines echoing into the night like war drums. Ghost kept one arm wrapped around Mason so the boy wouldn't fall. Tank rode ahead, scanning the road with laser focus. Reaper rode at the front always. The air grew colder as they neared the abandoned mill. A massive structure of rotting metal and shattered windows rose against the moonlit sky, silent, dead, and terrifying. Mason's voice was barely a whisper. "Tea there inside." Reaper raised his fist. All bikes stopped at once. The angels dismounted, forming a circle of shadow and leather. Reaper turned to Mason. "You stay with Ghost, no matter what." Mason nodded, though fear made his whole body shake. Tank cracked his neck. "So what's the plan, boss?" Reaper's voice was low, dangerous. "We get the girl. We crush the serpents. Anyone standing between us and that kid," he pointed toward the mill, "isn't leaving." The angels moved like wolves breaking formation. But as they approached the rusty metal doors, they heard a sound, a scream, a girl's scream. Mason gasped. "That's Hannah." Reaper didn't hesitate. He He kicked the door open so hard it flew off its hinges. The Hells Angels stormed the mill. What they saw stopped them cold. Inside the massive dusty hall, lit only by flickering construction lamps, stood 8 iron, serpent-statued, armed, brutal-looking men, and in the center, Hannah, 13 years old, tied to a chair, a gag over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She flinched when she saw her brother, Mason. She tried to scream through the gag. Reaper's voice thundered across the hall. "Touch her again," he growled, "and I'll bury this entire building with you inside." The Iron Serpents laughed. Their leader Snake, a tall man with cold, dead eyes, stepped forward. "Oh, the angels finally show up." Tank took a step forward. "Cut the kid loose, now." Snake shrugged. "Can't do that." Reaper's face hardened. "And why not?" Snake smirked. "Because she's not the only one we took." Ghost's hands froze on his handlebars. Reaper's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Snake snapped his fingers. Another serpent dragged a metal crate from the shadows. Inside were children, 3 of them, maybe between 6 and 10, terrified, crying, bruised. Mason gasped. Reaper's heart turned to iron. Tank's rage became volcanic. The serpents laughed. Snake sneered. "Welcome to our business, angels. You want the girl?" He pointed his gun at Hannah. "Then you'll have to go through us." Reaper didn't blink. "We will." The entire mill fell into dead silence. The flickering lamps cast long shadows across the cracked concrete floor, illuminating the trembling children inside the crate. Hannah's eyes widened when she saw Mason. Tears streamed down her cheeks. But behind the fear was a spark of hope, a spark that had been dying every minute she spent trapped here. Snake, the Iron Serpent's leader, tilted his head, as if enjoying the moment. "You bikers," he sneered, "always pretending to be heroes." Tank's voice dropped to a low rumble. "We're not pretending." Ghost kept one hand on Mason's shoulder, steadying the boy whose heart hammered like a trapped bird. Mason was shaking again. Reaper cracked his neck slowly, a gesture the entire Hells Angels Brotherhood recognized the moment before hell breaks loose. "You crossed a line tonight," Reaper said, staring into Snake's dead eyes. "A very, very bad line." Snake grinned. "I cross lines every day." Reaper raised his hand slightly, a command known only among the angels. Tank shifted his stance. Ghost's fingers brushed the hilt of his knife. Hawk, one of the older angels, positioned himself near the side wall. Dozens more spread out quietly. Snake didn't notice the shift. He was too busy admiring his own arrogance. "You want the kids?" Snake asked, tapping his gun on Hannah's chair. "You want the girl? You want to play rescuers tonight?" Reaper's voice was ice. "We came to take them." Snake laughed loudly. "And you think you can?" He never finished the sentence, because Reaper moved first. And when Reaper moved, it was like a hurricane made of leather, rage, and roaring vengeance. The first IIT Reaper lunged with such force that Snake didn't even have time to pull the trigger. He slammed into the Iron Serpent leader, sending both crashing to the floor. Snake's weapon skittered across the concrete. Spinning out of reach, chaos exploded. Tank punched one serpent so hard the man flew backward into a stack of wooden crates, shattering them on impact. Ghost lifted Mason in one arm and kicked a charging serpent directly in the chest, sending him collapsing onto his back. Hawk grabbed a metal rod from the floor and swung it like a seasoned warrior, knocking 2 men off their feet in seconds. Gunshots erupted from the back of the mill. The lamps shook as bullets hit metal beams. "Down!" Reaper shouted. Ghost covered Mason with his entire body, shielding him from the flying metal. Sparks erupted from the walls as rounds ricocheted, illuminating the chaos in violent flashes. Snake scrambled to his feet and grabbed a broken pipe. "You're all dead," he screamed. Reaper stood slowly, cracking his knuckles. "Come find out." Hannah struggled against her ropes, her wrists burning as she twisted. "Emma," she screamed through her gag. Mason sobbed. "Hannah, I'm here. We're here, we're gonna get you out." Ghost pulled Mason behind a steel pillar. "You stay behind me, kid. No matter what happens." More serpents charged. One ran toward the crate of children, grabbing it as if to drag it away. Tank saw it. "Oh no, you don't." He barreled across the floor like a bull. The serpent barely had time to scream before Tank tackled him so hard the man hit the ground with enough force to shake dust. From the rafters, Tank lifted the man by the throat. "You touch a kid," he snarled, "you lose more than a fight." He slammed the man unconscious against the wall. The moment that changed EVR White H Iron Giant, Serpent grabbed Hannah's hair and yanked her head back, pulling a knife to her throat. Back off, he screamed. Reaper froze. Tank froze. Every angel froze. Mason screamed, nitrogen monoxide. No, please don't hurt her. The serpent's hands shook, sweat dripping down his face. Drop your weapons or the girl. A soft voice whispered behind him. You should pick someone your own size. The serpent turned just as a shadow moved. It was Ghost. Silent, precise, deadly. He wrapped his arm round the serpent's wrist, twisted sharply, and the knife clattered to the ground. Ghost shoved him backward into Reaper's reach. Reaper didn't waste a moment. He slammed his fist into the serpent's jaw so hard the man collapsed instantly. Hannah gasped as Ghost cut the ropes around her wrists and ankles. You're safe now, Ghost whispered. Pulling the gag off, Hannah threw herself into Mason's arms. Mason, I thought I'd never see you again. Mason hugged her tightly, sobbing into her shoulder. You're safe. You're safe. Reaper stood over them like a guardian carved from iron, but he wasn't smiling. He was staring past them, at the metal crate of trembling children. We're not done, Reaper growled. Not even close. The big RAVAL snake, bruised and bleeding, staggered to his feet. You don't get it, he spat. You think this is all of them? Reaper's heart slowed. Tank turned. Ghost narrowed his eyes. Snake laughed through broken teeth. This is only one shipment. The angels froze. Snake growled. There are more kids coming tonight. The entire Brotherhood stiffened with pure rage. Reaper stepped forward, eyes burning like a furnace. How many? He demanded. Snake licked the blood from his lip. Enough to make us rich. Reaper punched him so hard Snake's body slid across the floor. Ghost stepped up. Boss, we can't leave. Not now. Not until we find them. Tank nodded fiercely. Those kids aren't going anywhere. Reaper looked at Hannah and Mason, then at the frightened children inside the crate, then at his brothers. And when he spoke, the entire mill seemed to listen. We're not leaving this place. He lifted his fist. Until every child is safe. The angels roared in unison like thunder. But the serpents weren't finished, because at the far end of the Miller garage door began to rise, and behind it were more serpents, and another van. And muffled crying. Mason's face drained of color. Reaper, they have more kids. Reaper clenched his fists. Then tonight, his voice shook with rage. We end the iron serpents. The rusty garage door groaned as it rose, inch by inch, like the jaw of a giant beast, waking from a nightmare. The rattling chain echoed through the mill's hollow skeleton until the entire hall trembled with anticipation. The angels turned. Mason tightened his grip on Hannah's hand. Ghost stepped in front of them, shielding them with his body. Tank's nostrils flared like a bull ready for one last fight. Reaper wiped blood from his knuckles and stared into the shifting darkness behind the door. And then they appeared. 8 more iron serpents, each armed, each wearing the same snake emblem stained with violence. Behind them, a black van idled, the muffled sound of children crying seeping through the metal. Reaper's chest rose with blistering fury. Snake, barely conscious but still venomous, laughed through broken teeth. You thought you won. Angels. Tonight was just the beginning. Reaper turned slowly. You're right. Snake grinned until Reaper said, Tonight is the beginning of your end. The second WAV, the new serpents stormed into the mill, guns raised, shouting threats, but the angels were ready. Tank launched forward first, a wall of muscle and fury. His shoulder slammed into the closest serpent, sending him flying into the van's open door. Hawk grabbed a fallen chain and swung it with brutal precision, knocking weapons out of 2 serpents' hands. Ghost moved like a shadow, slashing rope, freeing children, pulling the small ones behind cover. But Reaper went straight for the van. He ripped the side door open. Inside were 4 more children, wrists taped, eyes swollen from crying. The moment they saw him, they froze. A giant biker with tattoos and blood on his vest. But Reaper did something unexpected. He knelt, his voice softened. You're safe now. I got you. A little girl with freckles whispered, People is, don't leave us. Reaper gently lifted her into his arms. I won't. Not tonight. Not ever. Behind him, chaos erupted. The fight turns dark. One serpent swung a metal bar at Tank. Tank blocked it with his arm, grabbed the serpent by the face, and slammed him into a pillar so hard dust rained from above. Ghost dodged a knife, swiped and swept the attacker's legs in one fluid motion. Hawk tackled a serpent trying to escape, pinning him with a knee to the spine, but then a gunshot cracked through the mill. Bang! Hannah screamed. Mason dropped to the floor, covering her. A serpent had fired blindly into the chaos. The bullet tore into Reaper's shoulder. He staggered, nearly dropping the girl in his arms. Blood soaked through his vest instantly. Ghost yelled. Reaper! Tank roared. You're dead. Tank lifted a serpent and hurled him across the concrete like a rag doll. Reaper gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. He pushed the pain down. He tightened his grip on the little girl. Stay behind me, he whispered. The girl nodded. Shaken, Reaper turned back toward the serpents, blood dripping down his arm, eyes burning like an inferno. You came for children, he shouted. You came into our town, our streets. You touch kids, and you'd think we'll let you walk away. His voice thundered through the mill like the roar of a war god. The remaining serpents hesitated. For the first time that night they were afraid. The turning Power-Yonti snake stumbled to his feet, spitting blood. You don't scare us, old man. Reaper stepped forward, ignoring the wound. You should be scared. Snake swung a broken pipe. Reaper caught it mid-air dot. In one brutal motion, he ripped it from Snake's hands and slammed him against the wall. Snake choked. You can't stop all of us. Reaper leaned close. We don't need to. Tank stepped beside him, because we're enough. Ghost joined them, and we don't lose. Kid Snake's eyes widened. Reaper punched him so hard everything went black. Snake collapsed. Unconscious, the last serpent dropped his weapon and tried to run. Hawk grabbed him by the collar and dragged him back. No one runs tonight. The mill finally fell silent. Dust drifted. Children cried softly. The angels breathed heavily, bodies bruised, bloodied, but unbroken. After the FIGHT, the police arrived minutes later, sirens echoing across the wasteland. The kids were taken into safety, wrapped in blankets, their small hands clutching the angels' leather vests as they said goodbye. One officer shook Reaper's hand. You saved all of them, every single kid. Reaper didn't smile, just doing what needed to be done. But Hannah ran up and threw her arms around him. Thank you, she whispered, for saving us, for saving Mason. Reaper placed a gentle hand on her back. Your family now. Mason hugged Ghost tightly. I'll never forget this. Never. Ghost ruffled the boy's hair. You don't have to. You'll see us again. Tank lifted the youngest rescued girl onto his shoulders. You're safe now, sweetheart. She giggled through tears. Then the police chief approached Tank. You men did something the whole city couldn't do. Reaper answered before Tank could. We're not heroes. Tank added. We're bikers. Ghost smirked. And bikers protect their own. The truth that changed EVR White HINJ as the last child was escorted away. Mason tugged on Reaper's vest. Can I ask something? Reaper knelt. Anything. Mason looked up with wide, innocent eyes. Can I come back sometime? To visit? To see you all? Tank laughed. Oh kid, you ain't visiting. Ghost placed a hand on Mason's shoulder. You belong. You and your sister both. Mason's face lit up. You mean, we're part of the Hell's Angels? Reaper smiled for the first time that night. You always were. Hannah wiped her tears, looking up at the massive bikers who had become her family in a single night. Thank you, she said softly, for saving my life. Reaper stood tall, blood still dripping from his wound, but his voice firm. Little one, saving your life saved ours. Tank nodded. You gave us a purpose tonight, Ghost added quietly, and we won't forget you. The sun began to rise behind the mill. A golden glow washed over the angels, the kids, and the dusty road that led home. Reaper turned to his brothers. Let's ride. Engines roared awake like thunder rolling across the earth. Mason and Hannah watched, standing close together, as the Hell's Angels rode off, chrome shining, hearts burning, and justice delivered. They weren't just bikers. They weren't just legends. They were the family that saved them. And as the angels disappeared into the sunrise, Mason whispered, I'll never be afraid again. If you love the Hell's Angels, then share this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Bikers Hype and help us reach the 1000 subscribers target. Comment your name to appear as a character in the next biker story.